City Matters.
Welcome. This podcast is a production of the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center of Nassau County. And on today's episode of It's All About the Children, Sami and I are so happy to welcome Gwen Jones-Cintron, author of Zion Lioness. She has a bunch of other titles too, and I do want to just introduce you in a way. Every once in a while, you come across someone whose words don't just inform you, but they challenge you to think differently. Our guest today is one of those people. Gwen is a mother, a grandmother, a retired New York City public school teacher, and spent 33 years educating the next generation. Retirement didn't mean stepping away from education. After October 7th, Gwen found herself called to teach in a different way. And today, through her Substack, Zion Lioness, she writes with honesty, courage, and conviction about Jew hatred, Zionism, Israel, and the challenges facing the Jewish community in a post-October 7th world. Her work reminds us that education doesn't end when we leave the classroom, and that each of us has a responsibility to seek the truth, ask difficult questions, and engage in thoughtful conversations. Today, Sami and I are honored to welcome you, and I would love to discuss what you've learned, why you continue to write, what gives you hope for the future, and everything else you want to share in the time that we have.
Wow, Carin, thank you. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, Sami. So proud to be here sitting with you in this podcast. I can't say enough. What can I say? It's been a journey from a city classroom in what we call the Department of Education, which is now called, I hear, the New York City Public Schools, as a teacher and what I've seen and what I'm putting together now. And I feel it's part of my journey to talk about it openly and to let people have a chance to understand how our city schools are indoctrinating children in ideologies that are really dangerous in our world, and especially for Jews. I have a history. I taught for 35 years, actually. I was 31 years in the New York City public schools. And I'm in special education. That's been my specialty. And I kind of covered the ages 0 to 21, special education. And when I started teaching, I saw the beginnings of what we are seeing now as full-blown anti-Semitism in the schools. I was teaching in Brooklyn from about 1989 to 1992. And there was a year in 1992 where we really celebrated Black history, and as part of that Black history celebration was erasing Israel from the map. And this was the beginning for me. And I will be honest, I did not take it seriously. It was brought up to administration at the time, and I write about this deeply in my Substack, The Perfect Marriage. I feel like even though it wasn't my best one, it was my most important one because it was a testimony. And Jews are always talking about testimonies. And that testimony was important because it talked about what I saw. But I will tell you that I left that school and forgot about it for decades until it would come up in little seeds as I moved along, like 9/11. I remember being in the schools, and I remember watching the towers fall from our school building, and then noticing the media talking a lot about Islamophobia shortly afterwards, and yet at the same time having family and friends in Israel, noticing that the Palestinians were celebrating the towers falling in the West Bank, in Gaza, in London, in parts of Europe. And I just was struggling, but we have to worry about Islamophobia. And I really didn't understand it. And then we can move into the next school I went into, where I was very involved in inclusion program. which was all part of a DEI initiative that I believed in. And by the way, I still believe in to a large extent that we needed a lot of the stuff, but laced in, almost like marbled, like a cookie. You had this component of really like, we can't talk about this. So you get to 9/11 in New York City, and all of a sudden, we can't talk about it in the schools. We can't read a book about it, but we're once again talking more about Islamophobia. And I, again, didn't really think too much about it. And then 10/7 happened. And 10/8 happened. And I started to put it all together, and I haven't shut up since.
I want to ask you a question, and again, this is a conversation, but because I also, while there are parts of like DEI, right, or this idea around including everybody in a space, I've noticed also a shift in the sense that instead of us trying to really celebrate one another in this movement of like why and how and things that make us different, it's almost like if you don't pick a bucket to fit into, or you don't pick a side, or you don't choose a side, you become one of the others. And it's like this movement happens. So you said something about erasing Israel from the map. And I'm curious because I learned about a school that had erased Israel from their map. And there was a big map in a school in Brooklyn for years that was on a wall that did not have Israel. So how does Black History Month have anything to do with erasing Israel from a map? How did those two connect? Like, were they using this framework of like, let's be inclusive, but we're going to exclude someone? Like, that seems really crazy to me.
Well, the more I look into it, the more I feel that this really important movement of inclusivity got kind of co-opted by what I have come to find is the Red-Green Alliance.
Interesting. Can you talk a little bit about like what that means to someone who might not know?
We can go back a little bit in the history of it. I really had to spend some time looking at it. I don't know how many people know this, but after 9/11, there was a movement to try to call out some of the money being funneled to terrorism in the country. And there was actually a trial. And you can look on the FBI website. It's all out there. The Holy Land Foundation trials, I think they were in, 2007 or something. I'm not sure if Sam is familiar with this, but basically, the Holy Land Foundation trials convicted a number of people of funneling money to Hamas. And as part of that, there was a paperwork, a mission statement they found from the Muslim Brotherhood, which was made, I don't have the exact year.
100-year plan?
Yeah, it was we're about 50 years in. Mm-hmm. And that 100-year plan, if I remember correctly, it was the 1991 explanatory memorandum. I'm going to look at my notes.
Okay.
A kind of grand jihad in eliminating and destroying Western civilization from within. And I remember going, but still not, because the rhetoric that we were being fed in New York intensely was, this is Islamophobic. Mm-hmm. We can't talk about it, and that somehow me even mentioning it would make me racist.
We were silenced. Yeah.
Okay. So, but I knew it was going on, and I was watching it, and I also believed in the humanity of land, and I'm a Westerner. There are a lot of people talking about how Westerners we want to be inclusive of everybody. And I actually didn't believe it had so much impact, but they were quiet, not even quietly, pretty out loud, putting themselves into the universities and with tons of money from, places that supported that, only to send out teachers, lawyers, activists that are now teaching another generation of children, and those children are teaching another generation. I think we're about 3 generations in.
They're placing them in universities as professors
Right.
to spread this type of propaganda. Right. It's true.
And at the same time, there is no dissent whatsoever on this. It can't even.
That's the thing that blows my mind. And, we've spoken to other people. Even in our last episode of our podcast, we had a guest on where we talked about how these organizations are like, we're going to kind of take a back seat on this. We've done enough. Like, then what's the purpose or mission of your organization if not to advocate for the Jewish community while all these other organizations have their missions to support different communities, right?
I spoke publicly against the DEI. Okay, the letter that I had a problem is with E, equity. Okay, they call it equality. There is no such thing as equality. Okay, the most equal country in the world, former Soviet Union. There is always a small group of people above everybody else. And in many ways, a lot of hate organizations or organizations that mean well, what happened is the implementation of their idea.
I agree with you.
Okay, it becomes racist because instead of uniting people, it divides. Okay, like for instance, when I spoke to schools, and I said, let's assume that both of us, and I told them that in my opinion, communism is the greatest idea that was ever invented. Everybody is equal. I said, but let's assume that we are working at the same factory. You are the manager, and I, work under you. Obviously, as a manager, you get more money. To be equal, would you be willing to give, part of your salary to me? So he looked at me and he said, hell no.
Right, exactly.
Right, because people don't know what communism is.
So what in part of the communism which people do not understand, like for instance, the new DSA, what people do not understand about them, to achieve their goal, they must destroy, like the communists. They had to destroy the previous regimes to build something new. And this is their goal within.
Yeah, and Mike, my focus, I knew less about that. And I was more, I couldn't, look, when you work for a New York City government office, and I think this is for most government offices, you have to be someone who, I use the term, follow the herd.
Yes.
You really have to.
Yes.
You don't have a lot. People think that teachers in the world can really think for themselves, but it's actually, in my opinion, the opposite. That doesn't mean you can't have creative teachers. And I worked with incredible teachers. By the way, I was in special education. It's a whole nother type of creative. And by the way, some of those kids, I feel, have been the most damaged by this. You're talking about kids who really struggled to learn, really struggled. We're told that they should be college ready. That was never going to happen. They were denied ability to learn trades earlier. And then you kind of stuck in this activism. You snuck it right in there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And what you're seeing is a lot of the online hatred and vitriol, I would go on to say, is not just college elites, but a lot of really challenged young people. And, but it didn't really, I didn't understand it. I mean, I can honestly say I totally believed in the New York City public schools. I still do. I still believe in individuals in the public schools. I absolutely am struggling with their leadership and with their unions. Okay? I believe in giving everybody, regardless of your ethnic background and your color and your religion, a chance to be well educated in this country. I believe in giving everybody that opportunity.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. The letter E is for equality. What I believe in, equal opportunity to succeed.
But at some point, we must call out radical ideologies. We cannot, we've allowed many ethnic groups that do not have the same belief systems to come here and basically indoctrinate.
But the way the DEI implemented it was racial. And it was based on race. And that is the wrong part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I would not, I agree with some of that. But it's the whole premise that I call it the marbling. effect. It's like marbling. There's this wonderful ideologies and curriculums put out to be accepting of everyone, and yet at the same time, they're marbling in really anti-American, anti-Jewish rhetoric. And we're not allowed to at all say it. We're not allowed. So now we're saying it. Now we're saying it.
So I've questioned some of the things that you're bringing up because I started noticing it myself as a parent. I would come home and do homework with my kids, and it was a story about a little Afghan girl who had hardship and overcame, and it's a beautiful story. But my question is, what is the goal if after the lesson my son wants to learn more about the Taliban, hypothetically, and he can go click. From what I know about the Taliban, they're a terror organization.
Yes.
How does it benefit a 6th grade American child to learn about the Taliban? It distracts from the message of this young girl who overcame adversity and challenges in her country because of the Taliban. But then it's framed in such a way, like it's glamorized. And the spin in all of the narratives is happening everywhere. It's infected. All the curriculum has these little pieces of it. And when you bring it up to people who, and I don't mean to say this in a negative way, but I'm going to say maybe thought the way you thought 20 years ago when you were part of the herd, you call it, or one of the sheep, right? That you went along because you were like, right, this is what I do. But you started to like wonder. People are not interested in challenging it, so they either go along or because I'm not even sure.
I think a lot of people really, the more I ask people, they fall into many camps.
What are you noticing? Because I know you talk to a lot of people about.
Well, it's the people who I don't speak to. You know, I've heard everything from silence, like real silence, and a lot of that from Jews, which to me is one of the most painful things, to see that Jews have been almost completely silent, especially in the New York area. Then there are people who are struggling with their children, who went off to elite universities and came back and
all verdreit.
Well, you said it, not me. But
it's true. You spend a lot of money for that.
And those parents are struggling a lot with their children.
Yeah.
And then I also, the ones who really are just buy into a political narrative that exhausts me. Like somehow this is all because of our current political state and all because of the current leaders, which, let's be fair, they're not that perfect. They've done some good things and they've done some bad things. They've said some good things. They've said some bad things. They have people in their camps that say and do bad things. But what we are seeing has been in play for decades. I didn't say years. I said decades.
Yeah.
All right. And I know that because I have a daughter who is half Israeli, and I have many friends and family who are from Israel. And you cannot put a map in front of me and say that Israel doesn't exist. It exists. It's a country with people, and people who have been suffering terribly and have been at war and send their children to war, and they don't want to send their children to war. And yet somehow I'm not supposed to believe. It's like an endless gaslighting. And then, it's all because of, the current leaders. And I'm like, no, it really isn't. So this is the part that I see a lot of, or I don't see, I would say.
The interesting part is that Hitler and his Minister of Propaganda, Joseph Goebbels, they said two things that people have forgotten. Number one is a lie told long enough becomes the truth.
100%.
And the second one,
100%.
The bigger the lie, the more credible it is.
100%.
And this is exactly what's happening today, and we do not know.
100%. And I write about that a lot in my Substack Zion Lioness, which started out as just a work of, I have to talk about this, and seems to now, become a part of my life and social media and really advocating in that space. And by the way,
we don't know how to react. Gwen, we don't know. And the biggest problem from my perspective is that we try to apologize, we try to explain, and forget it, They don't want to hear about it. They are indoctrinated. Go and attack, Forget about, the world will never love us, But no matter what we do, all the good that we do, they hate us.
I think coming from you, someone who has active memory from the Holocaust, those are pretty powerful words. And I think that I'm a second generation. My mother was born in the country. Most of our generations, the assimilation, the desperate need to assimilate has deeply affected our ability. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. It's a little offside. Are we good for it?
Yeah.
Like, I had somebody say to me the other day, but I like to be around all people, and as almost like a challenge to the fact that I'm feeling so much more Jewish in my life. And I've always been somebody, my husband is not Jewish. I have many friends in my life. And by the way, some of my non-Jewish friends, the most supportive. Oh, yeah. And even more supportive than the Jewish people in my life, which is really heartbreaking. And yet, I would love to see them all get more involved in what they're seeing and speak up more, but they at least will speak to me. I'll take that. But like I was thinking the other day about how most of my life, I was so understanding. Like, I really wanted, I love salsa. Send me to a salsa club. I'm the only Jew in the room. I'm good. Send me to something on gospel music. I think I sang gospel music when I was in college. Felt so wanting to be in different spaces. And yet somehow, because I'm really feeling really proud and comfortable in my own space, that makes me racist or Zionist lover. And I find it so, my head's spinning from it sometimes, but I believe that we have to stand strong and proud now. It's not being anti anybody else. It's being pro our own.
Right. The interesting part is that all the tragedies in the world started very simple. Words and images. And people do not recognize the power of the words. And many times we use certain words, but we don't speak the same language.
I actually have a question for you, Sami.
Yes.
Can I ask you one?
Sure.
Because I've been really trying to research, how is it that the Jewish world is so, not connected with this? And I started to really research. When Hitler was coming to power, there were groups of Jews. They supported Hitler. They did exist.
Not Jews, the rabbis. That was
and I want to know more about that.
That was the most enlightened country in the world. And Hitler, in the beginning, did not want to kill the Jews. All he wanted to have a Germany free of Jews. Judenfrei. He let them go, whatever he wanted. Nobody wanted them. I don't know if the Évian Conference, you heard about it?
Say that again?
In Évian?
The Évian Conference?
Yeah, vaguely. Remind me.
Well, FDR brought in leaders of 32 countries. And he said, why don't you take them? Guess what? Only one country took them. Dominican Republic.
Yes, the Dominican Republic. I read that. Yes.
Right? Nobody else wanted them. And when we talk about words, I can say, for instance, love. Everybody uses it. And we don't speak the same language because for me, love, getting married, is partnership. For somebody else is dominance. For somebody else is being successful through somebody else, through the spouse. So we have to be very precise with the words that they're using and to speak the same language. Otherwise, we are in a different planet. We're not talking to each
But
other.
how did rabbis and Jewish people support Hitler? Because I feel there's a lot of
The way that they're doing it now.
I feel that, right?
Because
Oh,
he was
yeah.
he was a mesmerizing speaker.
Yeah.
And number two, the one thing that he did, okay, he spoke the truth, what he wanted to do. But people did not believe that they wanted to. It cannot happen.
They couldn't
in
believe it.
Germany. They did not. It's
Yeah.
not that they couldn't believe. They did not want to believe it, and that's what's happening today. Okay, people are saying certain things, and it's acceptable. He did not mean it. You know something? Whatever comes from your mouth, it's in your subconscious. And people do not understand what's not in your subconscious, you will never say it. And people do not understand that. So if somebody says, okay, I don't like you, he may or she may apologize 1,000,000 times. At that moment when they said it, they meant it. And people do not understand that.
We're going to continue our conversation because I think it's a really important conversation to keep having, and we can keep going. We're going to wrap up this episode, and I just want to thank you all for tuning in to today's episode of It's All About the Children. Sami and I welcome Gwen, and we're going to be back for part 2, so just hang on to your hats.